And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house with Dr. Bernd Friedlander. Dr. Friedlander has been around the health space for, I'd say, more than 50 years. He's been a health consultant to many professional sports teams, and he's let's just say, quite a figure in the health expansion, natural health community in the Silicon Valley area for many, many decades. Bernd, how are we doing? Welcome to today's show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself. You've been around the block. I mean, professional sports, natural health, kind of life extension community for quite a long time. How long has it been, and how did you get into the space?
I've been sort of like, when I graduated from college, I got into physical therapy, and I was an assistant physical therapist for about 72 to 78. And I worked with, clients with structural injuries and back problems, neck problems, and physical therapy and rehab and recovery from 72 to 78. And then I went back to chiropractic school in 78 and graduated in 81. And I started working out at UCLA, and I was asked by a number of coaches and athletes to work with them, since they found out my background was physical therapy, nutrition, which I picked up in 1972, and my other background was chiropractic. So marriage was perfect. And I was also a track and field runner in college, and I also played semi-professional soccer. So I had a very good foundation and tool. And so because of that, I started working with UCLA athletes. And then later on, they asked me to come in and start working with the Olympic team and develop them for the 80, 84, and 88 Olympics. And we have people from all over the world coming to us at UCLA to work out with us and to perform with us and to learn about rehab and nutrition and all that.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So you've been in this space for 40, 50 plus years. That's amazing. Let's kind of dive in. We have a couple of topics that we chatted about ahead of time that we really want to dive into. So immune stress is a big issue that we have today. A lot of immune stressors in our environment, from food to different infections, et cetera. What are the top things that you are doing to help improve your immune system? Like, let's forget about hydration, obviously getting some sunlight, good whole food diet, just kind of all the foundational things. What things that people talk about that you want to add here, different things people haven't talked about enough that you want to add in that really would help improve people's immune function and stress?
Yeah, well, the first thing I look at is quality of life they have. How do they sleep at night? How do they get up in the morning? How much indoor activity are they getting in front of a computer, a cell phone? All these EMF is affecting our own system, our immune system. It's not able to function as well as we want to. So I just tell them to get out in the sun in the morning.
Yep.
In the afternoon and evening. Go for walks. Just being outdoor, not indoor. We were trained to be outdoor most of our lives.
Yeah.
And our ancestors were outdoors. So we developed from the sun and from nature and from the ocean, and that's how we got here. And by ruining us by being indoor, we've changed the attitude of our DNA and RNA and how it functions. And that's why we're seeing a lot of people getting sick today. It's not getting out in the sunshine, not developing natural vitamin D. So I have to tell them to take additional vitamin D every day, and some vitamin A and vitamin E. And I always include aspirin at night because that promotes many anti-inflammatory mechanisms, and it has a tremendous benefit in our blood, in our circulation, in our mitochondria. And the first thing I do is, because of my background, I wanted to know who we were. How did we get to this stage where we are today as humans? How did our brain develop? And that's important. And it was all related to 4 billion years ago, a mitochondria, an organelle bacteria called mitochondria that created everything and started the living systems life on the planet Earth, and plants, everything is developed through this mitochondria. And so I went into it and I wanted to research it as much as I can, become a sponge for this one organelle, how it works, why it works, and how important it is. And there's a fellow named Douglas Wallace who wrote many articles, and he's like the father of mitochondria. So by researching him and reading about him, and also about Ray Peat and his work in mitochondria, I started learning that everything is based on this one organelle. How do we improve that organelle, that mitochondria, efficient energy? That's what gives us energy to every cell in our body. And I wanted to learn everything I can about what makes this mitochondria efficiently. And immune system functions on mitochondria, stem cells function on mitochondria, repair, regeneration, and all disease and aging is a factor due to this efficient mitochondrial function. And cancer cells also are involved because of the mitochondria. How effective is the mitochondria in producing energy? It's oxidative metabolism, and that's the foundation.
Okay, so you get put a couple of things out there. I want to just break them up one by one. Some people may be listening to this saying, hey, I can't get outside that many times a day. What can I do to improve healthier monitors, low blue light, low flicker light, full spectrum lighting? What can people do to kind of change their office and their house where they're at all day to improve light activation via, say, like I have full light spectrum on now. What can people do inside their home to improve light if they can't get outside as much?
Good question, Justin. I see a lot of patients that are in cubicles, they're in dark rooms working. The first thing I tell them is get close to a window or get enough natural lighting from the sun by being exposed to somewhere that has windows, or incandescent lights that are natural. We want to bring back the natural state of light closest to the sun. So we can bring all these LED lights are not natural. We're not getting the natural lighting. And like you said, blue light is dangerous. And that's where the computers and cell phone and nighttime television and nighttime working on texting or using the cell phones for being on it too much is creating problems and neurological problems as well. And that's why people can't sleep well, because they're bombarded by blue light, which is dangerous to our brain.
Yeah. So there are some good monitors out there that are eye care monitors that are low flicker, low blue light monitors. Those are great. I have 3 big ones in front of me that will help decrease the flicker and the blue light. The lighting I have here are full spectrum. And so you can look at investing some full spectrum light bulbs to plug into those sources where you have lighting in your office. That helps a lot. Anything else that you personally apply or do in your home office?
Well, I also try to get them out for several minutes at a time. So if they're indoors, just go outside for about 5-10 minutes and at least expose yourself to some light. And then you can go back to work. But don't stay indoors all day long without exposing yourself to natural light. Because that's what creates mitochondrial function. That's what creates all that natural biochemical process that we need to perform better.
Okay, that's great. Now let's talk about the mitochondria. You kind of already hit it, right? The mitochondria are essentially the powerhouse of our cells. They generate ATP, which is like the cellular currency of our body. Vitamin D, or I should say sunlight, helps charge it. What about diet? There's a lot of conflicting ideas about it, right? I've seen many places where the mitochondria runs off of glucose and creates dirty fuel, that we really want to be using the carnitine shuttle and using fatty acids and being a little bit more ketogenic to run the mitochondria and not fueling up with too much carbs. I know guys like Ray Peat talk about more using orange juice and more refined juices. What's your take on that? I know you're a little bit more controversial on some of the carb stuff, but go ahead.
Well, I've been following Ray Peat, but I've also had a chance to meet and work with Linus Pauling, and he was a big advocate of orange juice. And he explained to me the importance of orange juice with the flavonoids. The vitamin C is natural in orange juice. And the flavonoids like epigen and arginine and nargine and fisetin, these are very important compounds that increase the electron flow into the mitochondria. So there's efficient ATP production, and CO2 is the byproduct of efficient ATP. Lactic acid is inflammatory. It becomes inflammatory in nature, and that's how cancer cells derive themselves by lactic acid.
Isn't lactic acid a powerful stimulator for growth hormone too? Don't we make that when we exercise as well?
We do, but lactic acid causes inflammation in our body, and we get cramps and deterioration and joint problems, and we break down cartilage and ligaments and tendons. And just simply what I used to do with my athletes, I used to give them baking soda, a quarter of a teaspoon to a teaspoon every day, twice a day, to help them recover from lactic acid, so they have more energy and their recovery is much faster and they don't break down as fast. And then I started adding the collagen bases, the vitamin D, the calcium, and the vitamin C from orange juice. That all helped. So what I wanted to look at, how do we increase the oxidative metabolism and reduce the reduction state? So you got oxidation and you have reduction state. And the reduction state is the byproduct of ATP burning in our body for fuel and energy. And we want to be able to bring back the oxidative state so we have the electron flow that breaks the food that we eat into energy, which is glucose. And that glucose is the metabolism of the gasoline of our body that fuels us and allows us to produce and function and be able to repair ourselves. And
so what kind of glucose sources? Are we talking from fruit, which is going to be mostly fructose, but some glucose, or starch, which will be more glucose? I mean, we're not advocating lots of refined sugar or processed grains, right? What kind of sources? And then would this still be a good idea if someone's maybe more sedentary and insulin resistant? Or this for people who are more flexible, metabolically flexible and more active? How do you make that prescription?
Well, myself, in working with many patients, many athletes, I found that one of the best things I did in the morning for my athletes to perform better, and I work with the Raiders, Rams, Lakers, all these Kansas City Chiefs, and as you can see in the background, I have Howie Long back there, who was one of my patients, is I found that if I can increase uncoupling protein, increase mitochondria. What increases mitochondria? It's what we eat and the supplements we take. Like anything that if we have coffee, we did a study and we found that coffee with sugar and cream, actually the athletes perform better. And we saw an increase in mitochondrial function. And if we did it with tea, we found that if we put sugar and cream or milk, we found the same results. So it's that process of in the morning, have the orange juice, have your coffee with sugar and cream, and the same thing with tea. We need sugar to operate on glucose metabolism.
Is this for every person? I mean, obviously you're a lean, kind of more ectomorphic kind of body type. You're active. So for you, that makes sense. Would that make sense if you're overweight though, as well, and you're more insulin resistant? Would that be a good recommendation for them? Or should we allow some of these people to go off of gluconeogenesis to help convert maybe glucose in their body via protein, which is more time release? How do you make that more specific?
Working with, going back to the 80s, 81, 82, I wanted to study on performance and recovery. That was my job at UCLA. That was what I was given a job. And I worked on caloric restriction diet. I worked on mitochondria performance with the university. And what I found is that since we started consuming too much carbs, pastas and breads and flours and iron-rich foods, we have caused more obesity and diabetes and heart attacks. When the polyunsaturated oils came into play, all the seed oils, from canola to sunflower, sapola, cotton, all those, we had an increase in heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. So the two things what we saw was when we started producing grains and pastas and breads and flours, this is a new part of our diet. You know, it wasn't 1,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago. We were a gatherer and a hunter, and we ate from the roots and we ate fruits. So when we changed our diet, we saw a difference in disease stages increasing. And so people who are overweight, it has nothing to do with sugar. It's people are not getting enough calcium and vitamin D in their diet. They're consuming too much phosphorus. And there's a gene called Klotho, Klotho.
Yeah, Klotho.
And that gene regulates kidney function. Biologically, all our functions is controlled by that one gene, up regulating, you know, calcium into our bone, osteoporosis, arthritis, heart disease, cancer. If we have too much phosphorus, we're removing calcium out from the bone, and we're generating as an inflammatory condition in the body. And that's why we have osteoporosis, arthritis, and cancer, and heart disease. But if we have more calcium in our diet from dairy products, from eggs, from cheeses, and predominantly those kind of foods, they're higher in amino acid utilization foods. You know, we found that eggs and milk are the two highest in AAU, amino acid utilization in our body. And by consuming those kind of foods, we found that people are healthier.
So what about, so you're talking about calcium's good. We need more of that. What about magnesium? Where does magnesium sit on that hierarchy?
Magnesium is essential. There's no doubt, because of cardiovascular diseases, and also it helps calcium absorption into the cells, into the bones, into our bone marrow.
And are there patients that you would say you shouldn't be doing this orange juice? You shouldn't be doing the extra sugar. Who are these people? Because you're dealing with a lot of athletes, someone who's 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight and more insulin resistant. Would you say, hey, maybe be careful on that stuff?
I've taken on a lot of patients since I retired from chiropractic. And I have a group of people that I work with. And I have a friend at the Ohio State University Food and Science Department. And he and his mother have diabetes. So they're not active. You got to understand. So when I started giving them more sugar, fructose or sucrose in their diet, I was able to completely reverse their diabetics problems.
Well, so I'd want to know, what was their diet like before? Were you reducing the amount of glucose? Because we know diabetes has to do with high amounts of glucose in the bloodstream. So there tends to be a resistance to the insulin, right? And so we have glucose accumulating. So how does giving more of that actually lower your glucose level? Physiologically, that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. I had a chance. There was a fellow at UCSF, and he and I spoke about 2 years ago, right before the COVID came on. We met, and he was doing stem cells for the pancreas, how to improve insulin, you know, function again, how to repair the body back to a natural state where we don't have to give them diabetes medication. And I asked him one thing: would you do me a favor when you do the stem cells? Would you do me a favor, increase the sugar intake in the patient? He reported back to me that he doubled the effects of the stem cells in diabetic patients. And we came to a conclusion that the glucose and fructose improve the mitochondrial function and produces insulin more efficiently. And he didn't even thought about that. He didn't even think that glucose was that essential. And
but that's in the presence of stem cells, right? What if you don't have stem cells? Because I mean, we know that type 2 diabetes over 20, 30 years, we know beta cell function of the pancreas and insulin production actually drop, and they become insulin dependent over a long period of time. So if that theory were to make sense, why are people becoming insulin dependent over decades later?
I want you to go back and study a guy named Piore and Bronk. Bronk, and Piori is another fellow, one from France and one from England. Ray Pede has it in his newsletters. I reviewed their studies. They gave 16 ounces of sugar to diabetic patients, and they gave them a collagen type of diet with, like oxtail soup or lamb shank, things that were high in collagen. They completely reversed all diabetic patients. I have taken retired athletes who, had diabetes and heart issues. Okay. I studied their diet. I looked at them, and these guys are not like active anymore. They're not like football players or athletes that they were when they were young. So they had all these issues with diabetes and heart disease. And I looked at their diet, and I stopped having them have breakfast with just toast and peanut butter or oatmeal or, without protein. I asked them to start using orange juice, apple juice, grape juice, and sugar in their coffee and tea. I monitored them. I was able to get them off any diabetic medication completely. And these are about 30 to 40 people I monitored. And I have so many people that are, one person came to me, and that was a fellow who started was involved in a company that got the solar technology going, and especially in one of the ballparks that the 49ers play. And he was a retired football player as well. And he had diabetic problems, and he was going to be put on insulin. And he asked me if I would work with him. And I said, absolutely. He trusted me enough because of other people in the family that were, using me for nutritional consultation, all recovered. And one of them was a lung cancer patient who recovered 100%. And I put him on this higher sugar diet, meaning fruits, orange juice, coffee, and sugar, and all that. And his doctor in San Jose says, a month later, 2 months, he came back and he says, all your blood report came back perfect. He's never seen anybody recover that fast. And
well, it's interesting because I have hundreds of, observations the opposite, right? Restricting a lot of those sugars and allowing the body to start burning more fat, and then the cells become more sensitive. I guess the questions I would ask is, what was their diet like ahead of time? Because if someone's diet's worse, and even though you're adding all this sugar, it could be less sugar. And then 3 would be, how much activity are they getting? Are they burning it all up with their muscles and mitochondria right after they consuming it? Are they sitting all day doing an office job and still maintaining insulin sensitivity while being sedentary?
Yeah, no, I got it. I understand you. Nutrition and diet is very important. What I look at things that causes oxidative damage to the thyroid and to the mitochondria. What are they? High phosphorus foods, unsaturated fats, okay? Those and overload with iron. Too much iron causes damage to our blood cells, okay? And so I'm looking at increasing cytochrome oxidase enzymes by increasing copper, by increasing NAD output. So that's your B3, niacinamide, your B1, B2. All of these are important, vitamin D and vitamin A, and breaking and having them eat more of a high protein, high cholesterol diet. In my study, I did a lot of research in longevity, and the people that I study, and I just lost one patient 4 months ago. It was on national television. She was 114 years old. Her diet was very high in dairy. That's how I had her on since 92. And she was eating that before. And her diet was basically milk, cheeses, and a piece of bread. That was her diet, pretty much. And her coffee and sugar, and that's it. And so I've been looking at that for a long time, is studying people that live the longest, like in Bolivia, in the area of Georgia and Turkey. And what do they consume? Is they consume mostly, dairy products, and they consume things that are natural. They don't eat much of the pastas and breads and grains and oatmeals because that's not their diet. So
Okay.
I look at their diet, and I want to make sure if I can raise the NAD plus levels, the oxidative metabolism, that's the secret. How do I do that? I studied with Douglas. I studied with so many of the great minds out there in mitochondria research and glucose research. And I found out that glucose metabolism is the secret. How do we increase that? And how do we bring down unsaturated fats, increase saturated fats? Because high cholesterol actually increases longevity. And most of my
it's an antioxidant. Yep.
Yeah, it's an antioxidant. It helps with brain development. It helps with libido and hormones. And I put everybody on not to worry about high cholesterol. I put them on a diet that's rich in cholesterol, saturated fats, stearic acid, all these things that we need to develop with. And I find by doing all of these with my patients and increasing the glucose metabolism and giving them sugar, because most of my patients are very fatigued, they're tired, they're depressed, they have anxiety issues. And by just changing them, increasing some sugar in their body, I've been able to see a difference in all of them.
But I would imagine, though, these people that are already sick, they'll probably have a lot of sugar in their body already. They're probably eating lots of processed grains and flours and sodas. So my whole rationale on this whole thing, how does adding more of what's already there, how does that fix anything? Because if they're already eating a lot of processed grains and processed sugars, how does adding that in a different form fix it?
Okay, you said the magic word. We're eating too much grains, pastas, breads. Those are very high what? Phosphorus foods.
Correct, but they're also going to break down the sugar in the body. They still break down the sugar.
Yes, they break it down differently than if I eat a fruit. Okay, if I eat a fruit, what is around that fruit? Minerals, potassium,
fiber as well. Probably some vitamin C and bioflavonoids.
Yes, flavonoids. So if I'm eating that, I have sugar from a natural source that is not converted, doesn't have anything to do with phosphorus. Phosphorus is one of the leading causes of diseases today. And I've studied the glucose gene from universities from Stanford, from UCSF, from UCLA. And I've learned that most of the grains and pastas and breads and processed foods are very rich and high in phosphorus. And we're losing vitamin K, we're losing calcium in our body, and it's affecting vitamin D levels. And that's why I agree with you. These processed foods are not the foods we should be eating anyway, and they're not nature. They're not coming from nature.
And isn't there a natural ratio too with calcium, phosphorus? So is it the fact that phosphorus is a problem, or is it more that we're not getting enough calcium to combat the phosphorus?
Both. You hit it both.
So if you're getting, because you're going to get phosphorus in animal products too, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be getting in meat. So we're not saying meat's bad. You're just saying make sure you get enough calcium to balance it off. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't eat much meat anymore. Okay, I've learned
how much meat are you consuming? But you're still doing a lot of collagen, though, right?
I do collagen, but my predominant diet is now shellfish.
Okay, so you're still doing animal protein. You're just choosing on the crustacean side. Got it.
I'm choosing more copper rich foods in my diet because cytochrome oxidase enzyme complex 4 is essential for mitochondrial function, and we're not getting enough copper rich foods anymore. We're getting too much iron, we're getting too much phosphorus, and we're not getting enough copper in our diet. So I'm choosing foods that are higher in copper and less in iron and less in phosphorus. And I see a difference in myself,
But I know for a long time, you were a big fan of grass-fed meat. Are you still a fan of grass-fed meat?
Oh, no, I think grass-fed beef, if you're going to go for meat, grass-fed is the only one because it is higher in vitamin E and less in unsaturated fats than the hormone or the estrogenic meats that we're seeing today because of the hormones and
The hormones. And then also you're getting a lot of good fatty acids because these grass-fed cows, they're essentially bioaccumulating the GLA fats from the grass, correct? So you're getting a really good high quality, I think, saturated fat from a lot of the fats that are concentrated from the grass. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So,
and then, so you talked about these polyunsaturated. Why are these fats so bad? Obviously, the processing of a lot of these fats, whether it's canola or soy, et cetera, damages a lot of them, right? And so once they're damaged and oxidized, they essentially create our building blocks for our cell membrane. So now we have a really crappy cell membrane. It's depleting our antioxidant reserve. So it's depleting vitamin E, vitamin C. Is that correct? And these fats stay in our cells for a long time. Can you talk more about that?
Okay. In lipid chemistry at Stanford, I had a chance to meet several people there and at the Buck Institute. And I was asking them questions about cell membrane and mitochondria and Linus Pauling Institute. And they told me in their research that if it's not saturated fats, if it's not mono or medium chain triglycerides, anything that is high in unsaturated fats causes cell membrane oxidative damage to the mitochondria lipids, okay? And they become oxidized and they become damaged. The RNA and DNA of the mitochondria gets damaged. And so all unsaturated fats will do that to the mitochondrial lipid, okay? And I read several major published articles on it. And also, not only does it damage our mitochondria, it also damages our cells in all other parts of the body, in the brain as well. And it causes oxidative damage to the thyroid. The thyroid is so important. It's the organ that controls metabolic function, hormonal function, metabolism, everything. Polyunsaturated oils damage the T4, T3 conversion.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
And so ever since—
Probably affects the autoimmunity, right? Because most thyroid issues have an autoimmune component. So if you drive these polyunsaturators that are damaged, you're probably just driving more inflammation, right? And you're depleting a lot of these antioxidants, which are anti-inflammatory as well.
You're absolutely right, Justin, that we're seeing an increase in inflammation due to these fats. And in nature, we weren't using oils from seeds. That's something else. Seeds were made to grow things. They weren't made to eat.
Or if we ate them, we soaked them. There was a way that we tried to deactivate a lot of the anti-nutrients and lectins via certain methods.
Yes. You mean sprouting. That's true.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the other problem with the unsaturated fats. And there was a lot of, Gilbert Ling showed that it was causing a lot of cell membrane issues too. And the other thing also, not only that, but it raises estrogen in our body. And estrogen is a promoter of growth of cancer, and it's also an inflammatory marker and lowers oxidative metabolism in the mitochondria. And Vernon Stevens at Ohio State University and Cleveland Cancer Clinic showed that estrogen is a predominant marker of all cancer cells. It's in the cell membrane of all cancer cells. And he showed that in his studies, that estrogen leads to all these processes. And by reducing unsaturated fats, we can therefore reduce some of the estrogen by increasing progesterone and DHEA in our diet. We also lower estrogen, and estrogen can cause many oxidative damages, inflammation, and raises serotonin and histamine. And we have autoimmune disease from that as well.
Makes sense. Now, with the estrogens, are you also worried about aromatase in men? For instance, high levels of insulin, primarily driven by too much Sugar, are you worried about aromatase causing that high level of estrogen and thus increasing cancer risk in men, for instance?
Can we put a hold for a second?
Sure.
I have the people here. Hold on.
Sure. No problem. We'll pause it real quick here. Or actually, I'll keep on chatting here while you jump over. So just a couple of things we want to highlight here. Mitochondria, very important. I mean, I guess some of the things that Dr. Burns and I may disagree on is about how much glucose a person needs. I would say out of the gates, glucose, you can get away with more processed glucose and more refined sugars the more active you are, and the more genetically you tend to be more towards an ectomorph, right? Look at Michael Phelps back in, I think it was maybe 2 Olympics ago. They showed his breakfast or what he ate during a day. It was like pancakes and junk. I'm just saying it was 10,000 calories. I was thinking, I'm like, man, if that guy actually ate 10,000 calories of food that was more nutrient dense, imagine how much better he'd perform. But again, when someone's that active, they can deal with all the refined carbohydrates and sugars, and they can handle it. Now, again, if someone has a gluten sensitivity and other food allergens, such as dairy and cheeses, that may be problematic, and that may cause IBS and other types of issues. So I would say carbohydrate loads should really be dependent upon how active someone is, their genetic predisposition to be able to handle that high level of carbohydrate, and also what their activity level is. Some people, they consume a bunch of carbohydrates, a bunch of pasta, they are prone to getting tired. Some eat a bunch of glucose and pasta, and they actually get more active. Now, I would say also better to do things that are more starchy, squash, sweet potato, and anti-inflammatory, because gluten sensitivity is a big deal. The more gluten that you're consuming and the more sensitive you are to it, the more that may drive inflammation, create gut permeability issues, and also increased chance of autoimmunity. And so we want to choose safe starches that are going to be anti-inflammatory, nutrient dense, and low toxin. All right, he's back. I was just chatting with everyone here as we go. So let's just kind of dive into the mitochondria. You mentioned aspirin. Now, are you worried about any of the side effects of the acetylsalicylic acid, which essentially is aspirin? And then could people also do white willow bark as well if they wanted to avoid the actual pharmaceutical, maybe do the actual bark it said. And are you worried about those side effects?
None at all. I've been using aspirin for 40 years now.
And for listeners, aspirin is derived from white willow bark. So if you want to try it, you can also get the actual whole herb, the whole bark, and do it that way too. Go ahead.
So about 1980, 84, when I was working with Olympic athletes, then I worked with the Raiders and Rams that year, and then the Lakers the following year. I studied from a cell physiologist at UCLA how to improve, mitochondria, uncoupling protein, energy into the individual performance. And there was a study that somebody showed me that aspirin helps with coffee in raising uncoupling protein. So when I gave people aspirin with coffee, with sugar and cream, they doubled their performance level. It was almost like a steroid, they said. It was so much, they couldn't believe it. Not only that, we saw less injuries in our athletes. So our injuries levels were going down dramatically. So we knew it had to be with the aspirin as well, because we weren't getting the strains and sprains of calves and ankles that, in athletes that were performing.
So hold on one sec. What does that mean, uncoupling proteins? Can you kind of break that down, what that means?
That means you're improving the electron flow into the mitochondria. So you're getting more ability to take electrons and oxygen, and there's a chemical reaction in the mitochondria. There's a spin that goes on.
Yeah.
It's a ATP spin, that gives us that spin to make energy in the mitochondria.
And what's the mechanism? Is that from aspirin decreasing inflammation and improving just the flow? It's improving just the blood flow of these nutrients. What's the mechanism?
It has to be the combination of the coffee, the caffeine,
the alkaloids,
the high magnesium, and the anti-inflammatory mechanism of the coffee and the aspirin that increased that electron flow through the cell membrane and created a faster spin. So you're getting more efficient ATP production. And Aspirin is also can lower fatty acid synthesis, which is a major factor in all cancer cells. It's Otto Warburg says, if you don't have sufficient oxygen to as a respiratory function in the cell, then you're not going to have efficient energy. And cancer cells don't have efficient energy. They break down to lactic acid.
Okay.
And that's the problem. Well, aspirin protects us from the lactic acid production. That's another factor. It helps with raising CO2, carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct of energy. And why we train in high altitude is because we want more CO2, which helps us in energy and metabolism. And there's improvement in quality of endurance because of CO2. And so we found that aspirin also helps with raising CO2 levels, which is essential for more energy and recovery from injuries and all that.
Okay. Well, anything else you want to leave the listeners with? And by the way, would you recommend just an any day generic baby aspirin, or do you have any brands that have less fillers or dyes or preservatives in there?
I go and I want you to have, I just get Walgreens brand, their brand. It's aspirin, Walgreens, or any brand that's not, like Bayer's. I see less recipients.
Okay. So, and if people want to still get that benefit, they could still try to find some white willow bark, which is what aspirin is made from. So that's another natural alternative. If someone wants to be a little bit more natural in their approach, that's a good option as well.
About 30 years ago, I was lecturing at an anti-aging conference in Las Vegas and San Jose. And one of the cardiologists who was also lecturing, we started talking about the importance. There was a lecture on aspirin at the same conference by one of the scientists at Bayer. He showed that aspirin increases a gene called FOXO, FOXO, which is a longevity gene that's found in longevity people with, and aspirin increases this function of FOXO gene to be more efficient and to keep it from burning down, or it helps to overexpress it. So we found that it works phenomenally well. And when we went to that conference and we saw all the values of aspirin, it helps with bone growth and bone development, and cartilage repair, and lowers inflammation, increases CO2 levels. The cardiologist, I asked him, how does this work in your sense of understanding of the heart and the blood flow? He says, the aspirin protects us if we take it every night from developing a clot, from developing a stroke, from the platelets aggregating each other, from oxidative damage.
But would you recommend other things like systemic enzymes or higher dose fish oil? Would you recommend other natural things, or curcumin or ginger first? Or do you really think aspirin is just as good, or if not better than those natural compounds too?
I have studied every herb out there with Elizabeth Mazzio, Mazzio. She's the world leading expert in inflammatory plants. Aspirin was by far the only plant, the only natural thing that has prostaglandin 1, prostaglandin 2, which is COX-1 and 2 inhibitors. There's not a compound out there that inhibits both prostaglandins. And
1 and 2.
1 and 2. And many do 1, many do 2, but nothing comes close to doing 1 and 2. Boswellia was the second most powerful under aspirin. Boswellia,
okay, which is essentially frankincense. And we're not putting things like ibuprofen or NSAIDs in the same category that increase chance of ulcers and liver damage, right? I mean, those kill about 20,000 people a year taken correctly. They work great, but they have some side effects. You wouldn't put aspirin in that same camp, right?
No, aspirin is by far so much better because it doesn't cause liver damage. And the other, you said something very interesting. All these other ones, they have a problem. They cause a hypometabolic function. They don't improve mitochondrial function. That was the second thing that we did a study with. in lipid chemistry is what increases mitochondrial function. And aspirin seems to be the only one besides fisetin, which is going to be the next future, that increases electron flow into the mitochondria. And that's what we're seeing. And I take 325 milligrams every night before I go to bed. That's what the cardiologist told me, that protects us against strokes, blood clots, by anything that causes platelet damage or anything like that. 325. 81 did not do much at all in that.
Okay.
So, and then I have many athletes still that I work with. I have them take an aspirin in the morning as a protective mechanism against injury, inflammation, and at night. And they seem to do better when they're doing that. Then their recovery is better, the less injuries. And again, anything that I can raise the oxidative function of our metabolism, our mitochondria, is what I consume in foods, and also what I do with nutrients like B1, B2, and niacinamide, and vitamin D and vitamin K. All the quinones are very powerful. That's what William Koch came up with his cancer treatment, how to increase quinones in our body. And it was basically oxidative metabolism improvement. And
what was the dose of aspirin again? Was it 350 milligrams?
I take 325. I'll share one. There's a doctor in San Diego who called me up 15, 20 years ago. I did an article, I did a lecture podcast on methylene blue, which also helps with increasing oxidative metabolism and increases mitochondrial function. I get a call from this doctor. He's very well known in San Diego, very alternative thinking. You know, he's not your conservative doctor, but he thinks above the outside the box. And he had a patient that had Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. I forgot it. I think it was Alzheimer's. And he saw my video and podcast from Silicon Valley. And he asked me about methylene blue dosaging. He wants to try it on his patient. And I told him what to do, how much milligrams per day and all that. Then he asked me, I got a question for you. My father has stomach cancer. So he asked me, what can he do? So I gave him a whole program and everything. And I told him to do 1,000 milligrams of aspirin to 2,000, because I saw the research that aspirin and vitamin D3 can reverse cancer, okay? So I told him about the D3 and I told him about the aspirin. 6 months later, calls me up, wants to know about Parkinson's and methylene blue. And then I realized I realized who he was. I said, how's your father with the cancer? He said he's completely cured. I said, how long did it take him? 6 months.
Wow.
And he said, wow, what did you do with him? I said, what you told me. I said, what did I tell you? Because I forgot, it was 6, 7 months ago.
Yeah.
He said he took 1,000 milligrams of aspirin every day, 3 aspirins, morning, afternoon, evening, with vitamin K and also baking soda, so he didn't have an upset stomach. He's one of the third people that I talked to with colon or stomach cancer that reversed it just by using aspirin. I was amazed, that it just took aspirin to do that.
Wow, that's great.
Then I read many reports, and I went to PubMed and Medline and PLOS, and I read all of Ray Pete's articles. Aspirin is a wonder drug. And I didn't realize until that study that we went to the anti-aging conference in Las Vegas, where the fellow from Bayer spoke about the importance of aspirin, not only inflammation, but prolonging longevity and other factors that are necessary.
Okay. Well, very cool. I mean, I think anyone listening here, if they're on the fence, that's an option. They can also jump on the herb. I think also keeping inflammation down via your diet's probably, probably the best thing out of the gates, like you mentioned, vitamin D.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to leave the listeners with here, Bernd, that we didn't have enough time to get, but you want to highlight it before we go here?
Well, again, like I said, I think the most important is reduce the indoor, climate. Get more sunlight, get natural lighting, like you said, incandescent, full spectrum lighting is
Correct.
important.
Full spectrum. That makes sense.
And make sure the most important thing here is what I found in people with weight problems and anybody. I try to get them to have a good breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal. If you're going to have it at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12, it is the most important meal. And it should be 50 grams, 25 to 50 grams of protein. So don't have a starch, don't have a croissant, don't have a peanut butter sandwich, don't have an oatmeal. Worst thing to do in the morning, you want to build that thyroid function and you want to increase mitochondria function. So good protein. I love pasture eggs. I love cheeses like Manchego, any Pecorino, or feta cheese, or goat cheese and cottage cheese. And I have my orange juice and my coffee every single day. Never have any problems with weight problems or tiredness or fatigue, and I sleep like a log every day.
Good. Excellent. Well, I appreciate the really good feedback here, Bernd. I mean, your wealth of knowledge, you've been in this field for nearly 50 years. So I appreciate it, the clinical information. Hopefully listeners can take at least one thing out of this here. I think it's great. Again, Bernd, website, is it berndfriedlander.com?
Yeah, berndfriedlander.com.
berndfriedlander.com. We'll put the link down below here, y'all. Bernd's a great friend and a wealth of knowledge. Bernd, thanks for everything. Thanks for chatting here today. You have an awesome